Hey guys, today we are going to do the bird nest. So I did a live where you guys kind of got to walk through this with me, but this is going to be step by step exactly how to do it and how to add those finishing touches with your speckles on your eggs. So hopefully you're going to enjoy this and have fun making it, and you can decide if you want to add words at the top or do one of these on a mini canvas. That would be cute too, or maybe you want to do a bigger version of it. So I'm going to walk you through how to do this step by step. So I'm going to set this up here, and the very first thing I'm going to do is put my base coat down, and I just want, I'm just using a large flat, and this is like a golden brown. Where's my paint killers? Here, I'll show you this. This is golden brown. Let me show you the colors I'm going to use in this real quick. Golden brown, golden sunset, and they don't have to be exact. You can get something similar to these. And then I have a mint, robin's egg blue, and a navy. Those three colors are going to be what I use in my eggs. And this will give you more detail on shading as well. So those are part of the colors. Then we have burnt umber, black, and light buttermilk. So any brand of these will do. DecoArt has great paint. I have some big bottles, some small bottles of that, apple barrel. And then this is, robin's egg blue is a specific color to Michael's, but again, you can find something really similar to that. Any kind of basic light bluish color will do. So I'm just gonna paint this on. I'm gonna grab a little bit of my buttermilk with it. That's the golden brown, just to make it a little bit lighter in some areas, and maybe even a little bit of my burnt umber to get mixed in there. So just kind of show you what I'm doing. You can just grab a little bit of all your colors. You just want to make sure you have enough on there that you can spread your paint around easily. Now I'm not worried too much about getting this center filled. I'm focusing on my outer edges because I know I'm going to come in and fill that in with the nest. So we're using this is like a 1-inch flat wash, and then we'll be using a palette knife. And if you don't have one of those yet, you can buy the set I have on Amazon, which is what I use in the tutorials, or you can get just some cheap plastic ones from a craft store too. So it doesn't have to be anything special. The ones I use in my class with my students are just the plastic ones. Let me show you really quick. Just these plastic ones. So you don't have to use the metal ones if you don't want to. And then you're gonna take your paint all the way around your edges as well. And then I'm just gonna start with my light buttermilk. And again, this is the DecoArt brand. It's a little thicker than like Craft Smart paint, so I'm not even gonna bother with putting any gel medium in it. I'm just gonna go straight from the paint to the canvas. So when you're using a palette knife, you kind of scoop it up backwards. So I'm scooping it on the back side of the knife, and then I'm just gonna start scraping it in just like that. And it's gonna pick up a little bit of my paint with that golden brown that we did underneath. If you don't want so much of that showing, you can let it dry, or you can grab a blow dryer. And we're just gonna do a quick blast of air just to get that a little bit drier so it doesn't all mix with the brown. So you can see in the original, I have some where it's mixed in and some where it's kind of standing more on its own. No right or wrong to any of this. This is all preference. And when you're using the palette knife, you're just, like I showed you, scooping it up, and you just want to scrape around in different directions. You can do, well, we'll start there. You can do big scrapes, short little scrapes, and whatever way you do it, you get something a little different. This is what I love about palette knife painting, is you really never know what you're gonna get because there's no exact science to it. You're just kind of scraping and playing along, and everyone's is gonna be completely unique. So every once in a while I may flip, like if paint goes on that upper edge, I may flip my brush over, or my palette knife over, and just scrape that in a little bit. You can decide how much of that khaki color you want showing through. I'm going to get a little bit more of my buttermilk here. Just go around these edges, and again, I'm not worried about that center right now. Notice how I'm just changing the angles and directions that I'm pulling the palette knife in, leaving some texture there. So this is not meant to be all perfectly smooth. Just drag that over the edge just a little bit. And I'm gonna go ahead with a little bit of my burnt umber and black. Basically just getting a mixture of the two to just make a really dark brownish black color. And I'm gonna start scraping this around the side. So I catch the edges. So you're just kind of dragging. You can flip back and forth with your knife. You're kind of using that piece of wood on the back there and just kind of scraping in as far as you want that edging to come in. You may not want it to be really strong. You might just want a little bit of it, and that's fine. So I'm just gonna pull down around my edge here. And again, I'm letting mine mix a little bit with my cream in some areas. So just use that. You'll feel it when you're doing this. And I'm just scraping, just pulling it along, and it's catching that wood underneath and creating that line for you. So you don't have to put down a ton of pressure when you're doing this either. Just kind of dragging up against. And then you may decide you want some areas where you pull it in a little bit more. And keep in mind, if you do anything on here and you're like, man, that is not what I wanted that to look like, just let it dry. With acrylic paint, you don't want to try to fix happy little accidents when they're wet. Just let them dry and you can come back and fix it. So you don't need to stress over it and fret over it. Just let it dry. We're gonna work on the nest now, and you can always come back and change that up. Sorry, I'm gonna scoot these out of the way real quick, and I'm just using a round number 2. Any decent size round will do. Like this one says it's a number 2, but you look at a number 2 and other brands and it's a whole lot smaller. So any round is fine. You just don't want one too skinny that it's hard for you to get your paint around. So I'm gonna take that black brown mixture here. You can see I'm messy with my paint. We don't need exact perfect colors. And I just want to kind of get an idea of where my eggs in my nest are going to be. So just do some quick basic egg shapes. So a little bit bigger on one end, a little more tapered on the other. And it may not, this one may not even show all the way. We may cut some of these off just a little bit. So let's get my center in here, our center of our nest. And I may pull this over. And all this, don't spend a lot of time on this. This is not about perfection right now. We're kind of laying in an outline, because you can come back with your other paint when we're doing the eggs and decide if you want them bigger. So you can see this is not any kind of perfect egg shape. This is like a placeholder. We're just leaving it there for now. I may decide to make this one come out more, you know, who knows. So I'm just filling in that black-brown mixture. It doesn't have to be the exact color all the way. You can have some areas where it's a little more black. I'm probably going to end up pulling this over just a little bit and make this a little smaller. So I'm just going straight from that to picking up some of that golden brown again, and we'll start just real basic kind of pulls. I'm just kind of going around. So see how it's almost like a hexagon? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can just go around and you kind of get these angled edges. We don't want it to be perfectly circular. We want some of those branches sticking out. And you can, obviously, it's going to be round. Some of your brush strokes are going to be round, but you're going to have these kind of come out, these jagged edges kind of come out on your side as well. So I'm going to pick up some of my burnt umber, start pulling that out a little bit, and you're going to have all different kinds of shades in here in your nest. Lots of mixtures of colors. Maybe have some where you kind of pull those angles out. Now they don't all have to go one direction. You can kind of crisscross them. Make it nice and messy. So maybe pull a couple angles this way, then some that way. And they're not all the same length either. So most of mine are about, 3 or 4 inches. Then you have some little short ones. Nice and messy. We're going to get a little more circular around here, and I think I'm going to overlap this, make the inside of my nest a little bit smaller. We don't want too much of those eggs peeking through. We want them to look tucked inside. So now we're going to pick up some of this golden sunset, or yellow ochre is fine. Kind of a mustardy yellow. And we'll do 2 different shades of that. So you've got the darker ones, and then I mix some with my buttermilk color, and you get those lighter pale yellow brush strokes in there. So we want to add some, lights and darks. So I'll be coming back and adding more black in there as well, so we have some shadows. So I'm going to start with, oops, that black is really runny. We're going to start with some of this yellow And when I'm doing this, let me show you how. I'm really loading my paintbrush up, okay? I'm not pushing down really hard. So I'm not making big, heavy brush strokes. See those bristles spread out? I've got a lot of paint, and I'm just kind of lightly dragging it. So that's gonna create some texture. It's not gonna blend too much with some of our other pieces. Might just drag a little here and there, but I'm not putting down a lot of pressure. So I'm just kind of dragging it around there. And you don't want to go too overboard with the yellow. It's more of an accent. So I'm going to wipe that off because it got a little dark in it, and then we'll grab some of the buttermilk. I keep tilting my plate there. Hint, don't hold your palette while you're painting because your paints will run together. So I'm just making a really pretty pale yellow to add some contrast in here. See how it just starts building? I love these because there's really not a right and wrong. They're messy little fun brush strokes going in a circular-like shape. Now I'm going to pick up some of that black, and I may even come in here and just add some little sections where maybe it's a little darker. Maybe right around that edge. And then pull some of this black in out here. And I won't leave this the top color. We're gonna get some black on here, and then I'm gonna let this dry a little bit before I add too much more, so my colors will separate a little bit more. And it looks nice when you put your dark colors up against your light colors. Get some contrast that way. Maybe pick up a little bit of my burnt umber here. Just pull a little bit of that in. I may pick up a little bit different brown too. I want one. Actually, let's see. We'll see if we can color mix to get the color that I want. I want a little bit more of like a golden brown. So I'm gonna pull this burnt umber in with a little bit of that golden sunset. See if that gives me the different shade or tint that I want. Just pull some of those brown brush strokes in there. And you can decide how far out you want yours to go. I am not gonna put words on mine, so I'm kind of filling the space a little bit more. Just kind of drag a few of those edges out. Step back and look at it every once in a while. It's easy to get hyper focused on an area. So, try to stop yourself from doing that. You don't want to overwork something. So once you get some base colors down, I can still see some canvas behind there, so I'm going to want to cover that up. But I need to let it rest, and I need to move on to something else so I don't overwork the area. So we're going to get our egg colors down. You just need a dot of that navy. You do not need very much at all. Same with the mint. So I'm just using a little bit. So that robin's egg blue is kind of our main color. Still using my round number 2, decent amount of paint, just kind of scooting that around there. Again, just getting that basic shape. No certain brush stroke here. Very painterly, messy little brush strokes. And we'll pull that edge back over so the egg doesn't look like it's sitting on top. And then I'm going to take a little bit of the navy. And I don't want a ton in there, I just want a slight bit of color around some of these edges. I'm going to work that in just a little bit more. And keep in mind, this is not about having perfect colors all separate. It's okay for your colors to grab each other as you're going along. It's just going to add character and definition to your painting. So see, I'm just getting a little dark around the edges. This picked up a little bit of my brownish black color back there, and that's fine. Now I'm going to grab some of that mint. See how it gives that pretty highlight in there. Just a little bit of contrast to that robin's egg blue color. And just kind of play with it. I'm going to go back, grab a little bit more of my blue, come around this edge. Remember, if you get too much of a color that you're not happy with, you can go back. So I want there to be a little highlight on my eggs too. So I'm going to grab just a tiny bit of that like buttermilk color. Just very lightly. Think about where that light is coming from. If it's coming across here, it's going to hit there, hit on that edge. A little bit over here. And then you can go back with your black brown if you want to clean up these edges just a little bit. If they're bothering you, you can do that. I may tone down my mint just a little bit here. So I'm just going to show you again, I'm just kind of scooping that up and just kind of laying it on there. So it's thick. It has a little bit of a gray in it, but I actually kind of like that. And then if you want that little speckled look, we're gonna get, I'm gonna do this over here. I'm gonna get my black and some water. Okay, so this is really watery black. And I'm gonna show you, we'll just do it on here real quick. I'm just gonna tap. Just like that. If you want to add those little speckles in there. I like them. I think it adds to it. And so I did that before I finished my nest, so I can go back and add in that color without seeing those little specks on that part. Let's play with our colors here again. Get some of my burnt umber and some of my buttermilk. And it makes kind of that taupey khaki color. We don't have a lot of that in there, so pull some of that in. So I'm just kind of changing the angle that I'm pulling at, so I've got those rough edges. I just kind of bounce back and forth between my colors. So I'm coming back with a little bit more black. Put a little bit more around my edges, and then kind of here and there in between. And these are just so fun. You can do them with different color backgrounds. These make great little gifts for people, just a simple little painting. If you want to show people what you've been working on, I'm going to go back and grab some of my light yellow here. And you know, you're going to have different versions of that too. So some are going to be really light, maybe some are going to be darker. And I do want just a little bit different brown than what I have. Let's see. Let me see if this one's a little bit lighter. Not much. Here we go. This is the one I was looking for. So this is nutmeg. This is apple barrel. You can get this at Walmart. But it's just a little bit lighter brown. I just want a tiny bit more contrast in there than what I have. See that slightly different color? It's kind of got a little bit more orange into it. I just like the contrast that gives against some of our other browns. Just here and there. So the last thing I want to look at is my edges here and make sure these are the way I want them to be. Is that how I want the light hitting those edges? I think I'm going to add a little bit more light here because my light is coming in that way. So we'll make that part of the nest a little brighter. Maybe do this one with like a pale yellow around that edge. Maybe on this side, since it's a little darker. Pull the brown over and then have a lighter stroke right behind it just to kind of accent that. Maybe a little bit of cream here and there. Of course, it's mixing, but you kind of see the idea of what we're doing. So it's all about preference and what you want to kind of be your dominant color. And then in my original, this was kind of the last thing I did, is if you want to, you can add some scrapes of those colors in here just to kind of make it all pop. And if you don't like your speckles as big as they are, they're still going to be wet. If you want to take your brush, I just wiped it off, there's no paint or anything in here. If you want to smooth some of them in or mix some of them in a little bit, you could do that. Or you can leave them where they're a little bit bolder. And you may like yours without the speckles, and that's fine too. So we'll just leave it like that. And then I'm gonna take, I have a smaller palette knife, and I'm just gonna grab some of that blue, and again, just real quick, here and there and everywhere. We don't want it to overpower. And I'm gonna grab some of that mint. I really like the mint pop. It's a little different, and there's not a ton of it in the painting, so it kind of gives a nice little accent. And that's it. And then the last thing you need to do is just add your initials. You could do it with a palette knife, or you can do it with a little paintbrush. So whichever way you feel comfortable. Pull my line out there just a little bit. This kind of goes with the painting. So why not add just a little scrape there. And if you really hated it, you could just smear that back in. So I'm just kind of deciding if I want any more. Just pull a little black here and there. I like to have mine have a little couple surprises of that dark thrown in. All right, that's it. So I hope you guys had fun with your up close bird nests, and I can't wait to see them.